Robberies, lackluster decisions, and the fall of the great Anthony Smith. Guys, last night's fight night was one to remember, and I'm going to break down all the important fights, starting with the main event. Song Yadong, Chris Gutierrez, then we're going to get into the Anthony Smith fight, then we're going to talk about the Robberies, but let's get the Song Yadong. I see that a lot of people are criticizing Song Yadong for the fact that that fight was boring, and the first thing I have to say is, that's all Chris Gutierrez. He is scared to engage. He is a defense-first fighter. He's a guy that sits on the outside and throws pitter-pat low kicks and oblique kicks, that will not throw his hands, that's not willing to stand and trade. And, you know, it's not really saying that he sucks. Like, he's obviously a really good defensive fighter. I actually was really impressed with how difficult he made it for Song to actually hit him clean. I mean, we didn't really see Song have much success hitting him until that fourth round, where he just changed it up and started to brawl and just said, screw all this technical shit. Like, I'm just going to go in here and get in the pocket and swing big meaty hooks, right? But for the most part, Gutierrez was the reason why that fight was boring. Song Yadong had to take him down, in my opinion, to win that fight. Now, to be honest, I'm just going to say this. I totally disagree with the scorecards. I think that a 50-44 or whatever the score they gave Song Yadong, I think they gave him every single round. I couldn't disagree with that more, man. I think Gutierrez clearly won the third round just by frustrating Song Yadong on the back foot, chucking little oblique kicks, making Song Yadong miss for the majority of the round. And you could have even given him the second. I thought Song won the first round. He landed the more impactful shots. He came out there stinging Gutierrez with low kicks, giving him a taste of his own medicine, landed a couple of big punches as well. But after that first round, Song kind of went away from the low kicks and started headhunting a little bit more. And he just didn't have a lot of success with it. So in the fourth, he comes out like a madman, puts Gutierrez up against the fence, drops him, gets him down, and dominates. And I actually scored that a 10-8 for Song. And then in the fifth, dude, Gutierrez, man, when he's already down on the scorecards, a close fight, though. It was a close fight. Like, there's no way Song really dominated that. I mean, again, he was really frustrated in the middle of it. Gutierrez goes out there and does an Imanari roll, okay? And he just throws the fight. The guy that's been getting dominated on the ground, I think Song took him down at the end of the third, and he took him down in the fourth and dominated him in the fourth. This guy goes out there and does an Imanari roll. I don't know what the hell that was. You know, there was a part of that fight where Gutierrez was on the stool in between rounds, and his coaches were asking him, hey, man, how you doing? And he didn't really look like he wanted to be there. Maybe he just wasn't thinking. He wasn't himself, and he was too tired to think properly. But what the fuck is that guy doing with an Imanari roll against Song Yadong, who has the takedown defense of a brick wall and was dominating him on the ground in the round before? Terrible fight IQ move. One of the worst fight IQ moves I've seen this entire year. So, yeah, Song Yadong wins the fight. Lackluster. This is what I've been saying about Chris Gutierrez. He just isn't that entertaining to watch. In ways, he made Song Yadong look a little bit more mediocre than we had previously thought. But Song proved that if he's struggling on the feet, again, keep in mind that Gutierrez is one of the few guys that really does not engage, and he will make it very boring. Song also proved that he can mix it up and do really well on the ground, right? He didn't get a submission, he didn't get a finish, but he was active. This was not a wet blanket session like we saw with Andre Muniz and the Iron Turtle. It was not a wet blanket session. He was on top of Chris Gutierrez, landing good ground and pound shots, landing good elbows, and he was landing a lot of them. So Song was effective on the ground, and he's big, he's strong, he has a granite chin. He proved that yet again. He took a couple of front kicks flush to the face in this fight. So I think that although he looked a little bit lackluster on the feet, I think a lot of that is because, again, he went away from those low kicks and really just started to headhunt. And I feel like he should have stuck to what he was doing early on. And once he mixed in the takedowns, he dominated. And hey, that's still a ranked guy in Chris Gutierrez. Definitely showed a difference of levels. But I'm not going to be one of these guys that just hops off of the Song Yadong hype train or whatever just because he didn't, like, pulverize Gutierrez on the feet. Like, Gutierrez, again, scared to engage, not trying to have a fight for real, and he's just trying to throw these little pitter-pat shots. So, good win from Song Yadong. He calls out Yan, and I'd love to see that fight, man. Some of you guys were saying in my chat that you'd prefer to see Jan versus Figgy, and I understand why. I mean, that seems like a really entertaining fight too. The Song Yadong fight does worry me more. Like, as a Petr Yan fan, and I'm a fan of Song as well, but as a Petr Yan fan, I'd rather see him fight Figgy. I know Figgy looked good against Rob Font, but I don't think he beats Petr Yan, and I'm pretty confident in that. Whereas Song Yadong versus Jan, it's more of a 50-50 fight, especially with the trajectories of their career, right? Song Yadong's been winning a lot. I think this is a 3-fight win streak now for him. So really good win from Song. He calls out Petr Yan in English, right? Trash talking in English. The translator tells him that Petr Yan wasn't impressed with his performance, and he says that his last performance was shit too. So awesome promo from Song. Again, boring early on, but I actually didn't think the grappling was boring to watch. That's just one of the few cases where it's, if the guy is working on top and he's landing good ground and pound shots and he is making an adjustment, right, where the fight's really close and he makes the adjustment, he's able to dominate that way and still do some good work and damage, I don't think that's boring. So, yeah, it wasn't the best fight, but I think that if you look past it just being slow, like you can still see where Song proved that he has some skills that we don't really see that often. Like, we've seen him take people down, but this is a fight where he really showcased his grappling. And, yeah, he fixed his mistakes, man. But Chris Gutierrez, one of the lowest fight IQ moves I've ever seen in my entire life. And, man, is he boring to watch. Like, I just will never get that hype for a Chris Gutierrez fight. Pitter-pat, low kicks, oblique kicks, and that's pretty much what you got. Never throwing punches, never engaging in the pocket. Kind of a walk in the park on the ground too. So let's get on to the next one. Anthony Smith and Khalil Rountree, guys. I can't be the only one that thought this was a really frustrating fight to watch. Not only did Khalil Rountree not throw any low kicks early on in this fight, he threw 2 low kicks, 2 leg kicks, which is something that would take advantage of Anthony's weakness, his Achilles heel, which is getting kicked, and he threw about 3 of them in the second round. Threw about 4 of them in the third, but I just was frustrated watching this early on. Yeah, Anthony was putting a lot of pressure on him, which made Khalil a little bit reluctant to throw those kicks, but at the same time, it's like that is the one thing you're supposed to do in front of Anthony Smith to really get the better of him, right? To really take away his ability to do anything out there, and he hardly goes to them at all. Still gets the TKO, but Anthony Smith also fought a really dumb fight. Let's be honest with ourselves. He shot 1 takedown in the first round, and that was it. It's like you told us during fight week, you're not going to stand there with Khalil Rountree. You're not just going to kickbox with him, and that's exactly what he did. And you got KO'd because of it. What do you expect? Really, what do you expect? And he's taken a lot of damage at this point. Respect to Khalil Rountree for not following up with that hammer fist from the gods. I mean, that would have been a horrible, horrible TKO as well. Good stoppage by the ref, but, you know, come on, man. What are you doing? Now, to be fair, I didn't really hear the conversation that Anthony was having with his coaches in the corner. They were probably going to the advertisements, which I just can't stand that the UFC does that on fight nights. Like, the main card should have no advertisements in between rounds. I want to hear what they're saying in the corner. Maybe they were pleading with him to shoot takedowns, and he just couldn't pull the trigger on them. I understand Khalil was stinging him with the left hand when he would close the distance, but you've got to attempt it, man. I mean, Anthony found himself in the clinch a couple of times, and he still wasn't really going for them. Like, I understand getting them stuffed and not wanting to waste your energy on it because it's not working, but he attempted 1 takedown in the entire fight. It's just a terrible look, man. Like, what are you even doing? You know? Yeah, he was having some success. Yeah, there were a couple of moments where I thought that Anthony had rocked Khalil, but Khalil also rocked him back. It was a fun fight. It was a good fight. But, you know, seeing Anthony Smith lose this fight 1 step closer to retirement, I know that Khalil's an entertaining fighter and he puts on bangers and he's got a lot of great finishes, but Khalil's not got a personality, man. Khalil's not really a guy that's fun to listen to, right? There's a reason why MacLife only posted Anthony Smith's interview on Fight Week and no one else's. It's because the guy pulls in the numbers. People are interested in what he has to say. And a big part of that, sure, is because he's a meme, but it's still fun. It's still entertaining. So I wanted him to win this fight. I picked Khalil Rountree. He didn't go to the low kicks. Frustrating fight to watch, but an entertaining one nonetheless. And I think that this was Anthony's last hoorah. And I think that this was the fight that will indicate to him that he probably won't become a champion, which has to suck for him, man, because, you know, you're thinking to yourself, like, why the fuck did he take this fight on a week and a half's notice against Khalil Rountree, the Muay Thai guy that's going to take advantage of the low kicks? Anthony Smith ends up fighting the guy that will not low kick him and still can't make anything work, still can't even attempt a takedown. But it was a risky fight to take. He gets knocked out because of it. I would imagine that Anthony was thinking, you know what, Khalil can't beat any top 10 guys. If I can't beat him, I'm never going to be a champion. And, well, it's been confirmed at this point. You know, I don't think Khalil Rountree is going to be a champ. I think that a big part of him winning tonight was Anthony Smith not fighting a great fight. But he still seems to be improving a little bit, right? Anthony Smith, let's be honest, he didn't look that bad on the feet. Like, I think that Anthony looked worse against Ryan Spann than he did against Khalil on the feet. He actually looked pretty fast at some points, and he had a couple of good kicks as well. But, yeah, he gets KO'd. He's taken a lot of damage in his career, and this is the first time I've seen Anthony really get knocked out like that. He got hurt by Thiago Santos with a body shot, and he got TKO'd there, but a little bit different. He got TKO'd on the ground against Glover. He got dropped in that fight, fair enough. He got TKO'd by Magomed Ankalaev, but the last time he's been knocked out was before the UFC. And, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I hope that he doesn't, but sad day for the Anthony Smith fans. Sad day for the GOAT. And Khalil's calling out Alex Pereira. Listen, someone asked me yesterday, they said, Lucas, am I crazy to think that Khalil could beat Pereira? And I'm going to say, well, you're not crazy to think that he could knock him out. I think Khalil could knock anyone out. I mean, look at that combination that he landed. Not many people are KOing guys with lead uppercuts, right? To be fair, he landed a follow-up shot, but he's got really slick technique. So he could knock out Alex Pereira, who doesn't have a granite chin. But listen, the guy was standing and banging with Anthony Smith for 2.5 rounds, and it was a pretty competitive fight for the most part. Alex Pereira is on a completely different level. He's going to destroy the legs of Khalil Rountree. He's just a cut above. If Khalil's losing to Dustin Jacoby, and yes, he can improve, fair enough, I understand that, but it's just, you got to pick Alex Pereira to win that fight. Will Pereira want that? If he's eager to fight, if he really wants to get in there, maybe we could see Pereira and Rountree. That probably would be a hardcore fans fight where hardcore fans would be somewhat interested, but still, I think you and I would agree as well that Khalil really hasn't earned it. Like, you beat Anthony Smith on short notice. You got a robbery over Jacoby. I feel like you still need to build him up a little bit so that his name can grow. He's not going to pull in a lot of eyes, right? So I think that he's most likely going to wait to see what happens with Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. What's next for Anthony Smith? Man, maybe just fun fights. Maybe move back down to middleweight. I'd like to see Anthony Smith just fight some old heads, really. Like some old head fights, for real. You know? Maybe some young guns, some guys that are just making their UFC debut. Maybe he can become the Jim Miller of light heavyweight and just start starching people. But I think it's time that Anthony Smith, you know, take a step down in competition and just fight for paydays, just getting win money. And listen, it's a harsh thing to say that, you know what, and you shouldn't continue on your path to try to become a champ, but I just don't like him in these other matchups. To be fair, with a full training camp, it may have been a little bit different, but where were the attempts? That's the big issue here. Where were the takedown attempts? They just weren't there, and that's a big issue. So let's get on to the next fight. What was the feature fight? I can't believe I'm forgetting the feature fight right now. Oh, Nasrat Haqparast and Jamie Mullarkey. Nasrat KOs Jamie Mullarkey. First or second TKO in the UFC. Nasrat actually goes out there imposing his will. Hardcore for the first time and puts away Mullarkey. I picked Nasrat Haqparast to win this fight. So, guys, on picks, I actually did really well on this card. I got the main event right. I got the co-main event right. And I got the feature fight right. And you know what? I'm going to take credit for Jung Young Park and Andre Muniz because that was a robbery, even though Muniz won and I picked Jung Young Park. Controversial decision, but a robbery nonetheless, okay? I understand that Andre Muniz won the majority of the fight, and that's why a lot of people are out here saying, no, it's not a robbery. It was a fair win for Andre Muniz. He dominated the fight. Listen, just because a guy wins the majority of the fight, wins more minutes than the other guy, like you could win 12 minutes out of a 15-minute fight. If you get knocked down in each round, you lose every round. That's how it works. Damage trumps control time, right? And Andre Muniz did 0 damage in this fight outside of the second round. You have to give him the second round. In the third round, Jung Young Park is able to reverse the position. He gets taken down because the story of the fight really is Andre Muniz getting a body lock and just muscling him around and using his size and strength to hold him on the ground. Not able to do anything with it, but still, he's able to work at a high pace. You got to give him credit. And he was getting the better of Jung Young Park and frustrating him. But in the first round, he did nothing for 4 minutes. No damage at all. We're not talking about any ground and pound. I think he landed 2 ground and pound shots before Jung Young Park reversed the position and got on top of him. And then he gets into mount, and I think he landed like close to 20 ground and pound shots on Andre Muniz. The last 2 seconds of the round, he lands 3 flush elbows, big elbows, posturing up in mount, bouncing Muniz's head off the canvas. You have to give him that round, even if it's only 38 seconds of damage. That 38 seconds of damage with 20 solid ground and pound strikes, it's better than 4 minutes and 22 seconds of a bunch of nonsense where the guy's just holding on and muscling him around. And fair enough, that control time is worth something if Jung Young Park's not able to do anything, but he reversed the position. It'd be the same thing if there's a 20-second sequence where Jung Young Park gets up to his feet and knocks down Andre Muniz. It's like, all right, well, I understand he didn't really get that amount of damage, but sometimes a flash knockdown will win the round if the other guy doesn't really do anything, okay? So I gave the first round to Jung Young Park, and the third round was clearly Jung Young Park's. The reason why people are saying this isn't a robbery is because it's just like the natural trend of the fight. Muniz winning the majority of the first round, right? Loses the end of the first round, but then he dominates the second. So it's like, oh, well, yeah, he lost the end of the first round, but he dominated the second. That means he's dominated 9 minutes out of the fight. But he still lost the first round. You have to go round by round. And Jung Young Park still wins the third. So he got robbed. Did he look great in this fight? No. Did Andre Muniz actually look pretty good on the feet? Well, yeah, he got the better of Jung Young Park. Park was really struggling to land good shots because of the reach, I should say, of Muniz. And in the second round, Muniz was landing some good shots on his chin. But, man, you got to give credit to Jung Young Park and give him the win that he actually earned. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if he lost the majority of the fight. That's how you score it. You got to go by the criteria, and damage trumps control time. Good win for Jung Young Park. Good win for Jung Young Park. Andre Muniz, dude, one of the most boring fighters. I cannot believe Dan Hardy was hyping this guy up back in the day to be someone to give Izzy problems. Jiu-jitsu god that submitted Jacare Souza, who needed a cane at the time, of course. But yeah, he's just once again showcasing that he's an overhyped grappler. He's big, he's strong. Yeah, he can push a heavy pace, and that was impressive, but ultimately gassed out a little bit in the third. And Jung Young Park works his way back up to his feet, and who looked like the more effective grappler? Like, fair enough. I'll give you the idea that Muniz definitely won a lot of those moments, but when Jung Young Park got control over Muniz, you saw the night and day shift between effectiveness, damage, and actually working towards something on the ground. And Jung Young Park, when he would get on top of Muniz, would actually work and actually hit him with ground and pound shots, and it was a completely different fight. It goes from being boring as hell, no one wants to see that, to, okay, this guy's actually landing good ground and pound shots. It's an entertaining fight, and he's actually doing something. So, yeah, Jung Young Park's the better offensive grappler. He needs to work on his defense. And, yeah, he is small for the 185 division. That's really his issue here, because Muniz is a big dude. The guy has a freakishly long reach. He's shredded to the bone. And Jung Young Park's, he's got the physique of like a 50-year-old math teacher, you know? So maybe he could move down a division, but then again, it's like you're moving down a division, you're facing better, more skilled guys that are faster, right? That are probably more skilled as grapplers. A little bit tough situation for him, but I think that Muniz is just going to be a little bit of a tricky matchup because most guys in that division are not like the serious grapplers. There's a lot of strikers in that division or just somewhat well-rounded guys that aren't going to be able to muscle him around as much as Muniz, because Muniz, one thing you can't take away from him is that he is like big. He's a big dude. But I think that Jung Young Park can win his next fight as well. Yeah, he kind of showcased that he's not going to be a top 5 ever. So we can't really call him the dark horse of the division. That's why I say Brendan Allen is the dark horse of the division, which means that he can really kind of make it far and possibly make a title run. I think that if you're having a fight that's this close with Muniz, who, as we see now, is not that dangerous of a grappler, that's an indication that you're not the upper echelon of the division either. But Park proved that he was the better guy. That's how it is. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but what other fights did we get? Melquias El Costa and Steve Garcia. That was another fight that I picked wrong. I did pick Melquias El Costa. He won the first round. Steve Garcia, I got to give it to him. Steve Garcia, one of the very few 145-pounders that's actually knocking people out left and right. I think this is his 4th or 5th TKO in that division. We don't see a lot of finishes in that division, so I picked Melquias to win this fight. I liked his kicking game a little bit more than Steve's. Steve is a live-by-the-sword, die-by-the-sword guy, so this is always something that could happen in his fights. I talked about that as well, but he gets it done. He blitzkrieks Melquias El Costa in the second round after struggling in the first, knees him up against the fence, hits him with a hook, gets on top of him, elbows him, and he has Melquias trying to take down the ref after that. He was completely out of it. So a brutal KO from Steve Garcia, another brutal KO from Steve Garcia, and this guy's must-see TV. He's fighting at the Apex quite a bit, so he's not got a lot of eyes on him, but again, it is a rarity to see these kinds of finishes from a 145er. The guy has a freakishly long reach. He goes out there and imposes his will like no one else. So one of the most entertaining fighters in the game. Every single one of this guy's fights is going to end in brutal finish. I have no doubt about it, unless someone stinks it up and takes him down and just isn't able to finish him. But Steve Garcia impressed me here, guys. Steve Garcia really did impress me. I don't know who I want to see him fight next, but maybe someone close to the rankings would be the right move. Last but not least, we have Tatsuro Taira, who did end up KOing Alex Hernandez. I picked him to win by finish in this fight, so I got the pick right. Of course, there are going to be some people saying, oh, well, that pick aged poorly. Well, no, it didn't actually age poorly. I picked him to win, but I didn't think he had KO power like that. There's always a fluke chance. Nah, I'm playing. He did actually showcase some good power this time. Didn't look that fast twitch. Carlos Hernandez looked to be tired after the first round, and Tatsuro just caught him there like a sitting duck and landed some good shots, and his striking is improving, and we got to give him some credit. This guy's improving on his striking. We have to call him out if his striking looked trash last time, so I love how MMA fans will say, like, oh my God, you were wrong about him, but his striking looked atrocious his last fight, and I needed to call it out because Tatsuro Taira was this hyped-up prospect. He really showed a real hole in his game, and now that he's fixed the hole, well, that's actually a good thing. So we can give him credit now, but again, if you're going to sit here and tell me that Tatsuro Taira's striking looked good before this fight, you're just wrong. But if you understand that his striking is not that good and then he improves, well, now we have a reason to think of him as a different fighter. Whereas before, well, if the guy looks like trash on the feet, why not just talk about the fact that he looks like trash on the feet? He's 23. He can improve on his striking. I always said that he can improve, and if he doesn't improve, it's going to be a big issue. You know, these MMA fans get butthurt when you call someone out for having some kind of a weakness in their game. So guess what? Now, I'm not switching. Oh, well, you're switching up, man. No. He gave me a reason to think differently of him. He actually showed some results. All right? So credit Tatsuro Taira. Really, credit to Tatsuro. And I think he's going to be a problem in that division. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's tearing through this division. It's time to give him a ranked opponent. And if he continues to work on that striking, man, this guy could really work his way up to the top and maybe fight for a belt someday, because he definitely has the grappling to do that. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.